We kind of gauge our production based off of pounds of dough. So this week, for example, we're doing 17,000 pounds of dough. What is that? 8,500 loaves of bread this week.
Wow. A lot of bread.
It's a lot of bread. A lot of bread. The breads that come out of here, they're all naturally leavened. They all feature local farms whole grains. We do about 10 different mixes for wholesale, and then we get about 30 different products out of it between different shapes and sizes.
This is our 1979 multigrain.
Is this like a pretty popular?
Yeah, I'd say so.
1979, which is our multigrain, and that has a porridge in it of a bunch of different grains like millet, poppy seed, oat. So it has a really nice sweetness to it, still savory.
Get it integrated, so we're going on the lowest speed possible in the mixer, so it's no big clumps for when it gets shaped and when it gets baked off. Greg had made this bread and was showing it to people, and somebody was like, oh, this tastes like how 1979 felt, or something like that. And that was how the name came out. So whether that's true or now just an urban legend, I don't really know. I've never asked Greg about it, so. Yes, now we just wait for that. I can get another dough going. I'm gonna start making the baguette dough. Our baguette has 3 different forms of starter or yeast. So this is a pre-ferment. So this has been sitting out since last night. And then we'll also put in just like the regular starter or the levain. I think has been going for like 30 years, something like that. So this is the regular starter.
The bread starter is about 30 years old. It's the lifeblood for everything that gets made here. So it's really important, it's really special. We feed it 3 times a day. Bread is really uniquely challenging because you're dealing with fermentation. There's a lot of variables. And when you're dealing with fermentation, things can kind of go wild. And then when you're dealing with natural fermentation, things get even wilder.
So that's everything in. So then we just turn it to our first speed, so the lowest speed that we have, and let that completely combine. And then once it's combined, we let it sit or auto-lease. And during that process, like all the glutens and stuff are sort of like finding each other and strengthening, which is where the ciabatta is at now. It's like very stretchy already.
It's a lot of choices that the baker has to make. How much water am I gonna add? What temperature of water am I gonna add? How long am I going to let this sit before I shape it? It takes a lot of patience, a lot of diligence, and bread's one of those things you have to be comfortable with being really bad at something for a long time before you get really good at it.
This is like that initial bit, so everything is combined and now it like will sit for 20-30 minutes. And you can see like it just comes apart where like that one, I was able to pull it up a little bit. It's wild that just like sitting in one spot with all this stuff for like 20 minutes. It's like, oh, okay, we're gonna be like, we can connect, you know, be pulled up and stick together. We're like, now it can't. I don't know, it's weird. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking for. Okay, we're in a good spot here. And so now it's just taking it out, letting it bulk ferment for 3 hours, and then throw it in the wok-in.
Just as an aside, sourdough's always sucked, like throughout history. It's always been hard. You kind of race the clock on sourdough. You don't want to overproof the bread, you want to underproof the bread.
We hand shape everything because the dough that we make is very wet. You know, it's a lot higher in hydration for bread than what commercial bakeries are built to manage. Generally speaking, higher hydration doughs and sourdough, both of those things improve the texture and flavor of a hearth bread.
Doing it by hand, we are able to recognize problems when they come up throughout the process. Puts us in more contact with the bread. We feel it a little more when things go wrong, and a little like better when, things go really well.
Yeah, so the bread you're seeing Tad pull out of the fridge, we shaped yesterday. So it ferments overnight. And it develops that really good flavor. So baguette is same day. So it's proofing right now, and then he'll be baking it. They're actually final shaping it right now. We'll be baking it at like noon or 1, because customers are like waiting for it at like 1 o'clock. And they gather in there, if they're not ready, they'll be like waiting. We feel it.
I think that with bread, it can be seen as a commodity. It's the stuff that you have at the store. But for us, it's just like, listen, this score looks this way because of what this baker did. So it's those kind of things that I think are really interesting that would be lost through like greater automation.
Can you tell me a little bit about this massive oven that is behind you?
Yeah.
The oven is fun.
It's a gas oven, steam injections. The oven can bake 200 loaves of bread at one time. This is one way that we thought it was appropriate to mechanize. The top thing up there, that's actually the loader, so that comes down. And then you put your bread on there, you score it, you move the belt forward, you score it. And, once the belt's full, then you go to raise it to the proper deck, and then it will load the oven for you all at once, and then we'll also unload it for you. So for us, it's like a non-value added step. It's like getting things in and out of the oven without one of these things. When you're making 8,500 loaves of bread a week, that is a lot of physical strain.
So these are our Spence sourdough. Spence is the farm that we get a lot of our whole wheat from. These are our 1,600 gram loaves. We have another set of loaves that are 900 grams, but these are the big ones that are mostly for wholesale to like different restaurants and stuff. What I'm doing right now is called scoring. Scoring is when you cut the bread in a specific way to get a certain reaction out of it. If you just put bread in the oven without scoring it beforehand, the air will find the path of least resistance and will just break out of the bread wherever, so you'll end up with like a big bulge on the side where the air escaped from. But scoring it like this allows us to regulate or decide where the air is going to escape, and it lets us have a little bit of a nicer looking loaf and a more consistent looking loaf. This type of oven was designed, I believe, in the Czech Republic. I think there's only like 10 of them in the US, something like that, and they are therefore making it very difficult to repair if you need to repair it or to get a part from it.
We actually bought it used from Boston. It's kind of like this Chicago bakery pirate. He's got this bakery equipment company. His name is Mark Diane. He's wild, you tell him you can't move that oven, he's like, watch me. And so he brings it in from Boston. It's completely gutted. I helped rebuild it, learned a lot about it. I try to be involved in a lot of the machinery around here, so I know how to fix the mixers, I know how to troubleshoot the oven.
But when everything's working efficiently and effectively, it's a great oven.
So it's able to bake bread really well. As long as you're paying attention, it can go off the rails real quick.
I'm on the table like this in this like offset pattern so that air can travel through each of the parts of the conveyor or parts of the oven, and all the different corners of the bread can get color. Sometimes I'll pull it out and it'll be the color won't be dark enough. I'll send some of them back in for a longer amount of time. As a production bakery, that's kind of hard to do. We're like on a really thin razor wire of time. Just getting slowed down a little bit is not good. Everything's sort of programmed into the oven already. So all you have to do is like score it, make sure it's arranged properly so you have good airflow between the loaves. And then that's sort of all you got to do, because you can just send it in.
For me, I always say we do what we do for us. We do what we do because we're excited about it. We do what we do because we love doing it, and we're engaged with the process, and we're engaged with ourselves. We're active participants in our own life. And I think that's what I want people to realize when they're having our bread and having our pastries and sandwiches, is that, you can tell that people love what they're doing here. Being actively engaged in your own life and path is really important. So I think that's what I want people to pick up on, is that, there's passionate people here that are living their lives, that, maybe make mistakes, but are overall good people and having a good time, and really being engaged with the community like that, I think. What the bakery has become is a really big part of pride and joy for me. What is really impressive to me still is, just one, the quality and integrity that we can preserve throughout the whole process. But when I get most excited is when I'm able to stand back and the bread team is shaping all of this beautiful bread, and the bread's coming out of the oven looking really, deep golden and delicious, and you see all the pastries coming out of the oven, and you've got somebody walking past with a big sandwich on their shoulder, and somebody else is breaking down a big wheel of cheese. And it's just kind of those moments of pride where you stand back and you watch it all happen, and you're like, well, I helped build this. It's really rewarding. It's really, really pretty incredible.